Okay.
Okay. Hi, Fatih.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good to see you. I'm excited to do another one of our talks this week.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done one of these. Always looking forward to what shows up.
That's right. Poonam is not here today. She's on a trip to a very important moment of her life. One of her sons is getting married, and they're off planning and doing what they have to do for that. So this week is just Fatih and I. All right, Fatih, you want to draw a card?
Okay, let's see. We have today your sacred obligation to your children is to grow yourself up. Your sacred obligation to your children is to grow yourself up.
Oh, I mean, this
There's a
is
lot
what
of
conscious parenting is all about, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of profound wisdom behind it, right? If you actually
Yeah,
like what would this mean, right? At first glance. I think at first glance it might seem a little bit counterintuitive, right? Shouldn't we focus entirely on our children?
right.
So
And then we are grown up. So what does that mean to grow up?
yeah,
The way I like to explain it is, yes, our bodies are grown up and certain aspects of our lives are grown up. The way we handle our job is usually grown up and mature, right? We have maturity in how we conduct ourselves in society, at our jobs, in other places, but emotionally, we are not grown up. And emotionally, over all these aspects, we need to grow up, because to be emotionally grown up means to handle any life's aspect with maturity and wisdom. And so even if we put on a facade at work that we're mature and we're handling things, but inside we're falling apart because we don't have a good way of conducting or driving whatever we need to do, then we know we're not emotionally grown up. And so I think when you say our sacred obligation to our children is to grow up, is to become those adults that are mature and wise so that our children can feel safe, that somebody who knows what this world is about is there and will hold the boundaries for them and will hold this perimeter where they can explore and push their limits, but still land safe. And if we can't do that for our kids, then our emotional needs become a priority. And so then we become children and we put ourselves first. And then we unconsciously, like we don't realize, but unconsciously we expect our kids to hold space for us. And that's impossible because children are children and they're immature and they're developing and they don't know what the world is about.
no, that's why we're there to guide them, right? Like I think it emphasizes on like the importance of personal growth for parents. Like before we are able to guide our children, we first have to introspect and address our own stuff, what shows up, our own beliefs, our own biases, and our own emotional wounds. And then we can only truly try to serve and guide what is best for our child's, what's best for a child's interest, right? So I
So how do
think
we grow up? How do we do it? So now we've kind of talked about what it is and why it's necessary. And now let's try and bring some points on how we do this. How do we grow ourselves up?
I would say by learning how to create, well, I would say to learn what triggers us, what shows up within us. And instead of now reacting to situations, we learn how to respond to create a pause. So like I would imagine like a scenario where a parent had a stressful day at work, and you just got home and your child spills something all over the floor or all over. And I think we have to take a step back and realize sometimes our immediate reaction would be an outburst of frustration, or but a parent who takes a step back and begins to become more self-aware and now has worked on their personal growth, and would acknowledge, okay, I'm stressed, it's been a stressful day, and what is showing up within them, create the pause and then step into this situation more calmly and then respond. So that would be, I would say, part of it, or addressing our past trauma or things that show up. What comes up for you?
Yeah, there's so many little things we can do, right? Even a practice that disciplines us in separating our stuff from our children. So when we come home from work or from our day and we are about to enter the house and we know our children are there, whether they're small or teenagers, it's the same thing. We bring an energy. We have to start being aware of the energy that we carry with us, right? We are aware unconsciously, because even though you fought with your husband and now you have to go to work, somehow in the car on your way to work, you like brush it off, and then you get to work and you don't just dump all that onto work because you know it'll have repercussions. And unconsciously, our psyche can calculate all these things. But with our children, we don't think of the repercussions that our behavior has on them. And I think that's the biggest blind spot that we all parents have. We just like come and we don't sit to see how we feel for them. We don't open space for them to tell us. And then their reactivity and their tantruming and their resistance is actually that alarm and saying, hey, what's happening here? And so we can use that as a signal to understand, oh, what I'm bringing in the house as a parent is not what my child needs. So let me see what I can do, right? Because we know that the behavior of the child is just on the surface. If the behavior is not adequate or okay, then we look under to understand what needs are not met. And once we meet those needs, children switch instantly. Even teens, they switch instantly if you give them what they need. But what they need on this emotional level. And so if we don't know our emotional way of being, if we don't understand what it does, if we don't understand why it's important to have this emotional hygiene, we're not going to understand our children's emotional needs. And primarily they function emotionally, and then logically, and then later on rationally. So yeah. I think we get a little tripped up and we don't understand where we come from when we act with our kids and where they come from.
Yeah, and I think it like urges us to look beyond the surface level responsibilities of parenting, like the simple things is providing food, shelter, and education to your kids. It's more about these are fundamental, but I think parenting is not about fulfilling these basic needs, right? It's about fulfilling the emotional, psychological, and nurturing, creating an environment which nurtures the child and what they need in that moment. So it goes way beyond just the surface level things.
Yeah.
And I think also it's important to note that each one of us have this emotional baggage from our past. And it may be from our childhood, our relationships, the experiences that we have went through in life. And sometimes these things is what become the lens or the filter through which we now in this present moment view our situations.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think this allows us to create a space where we can recognize and address how am I showing up in these photos that we carry, and begin to like clear out that lens and try to now look at our kids from a new lens and trying to understand the unique needs of the child in front of us
In the now, right?
in
In
the
the
past.
present
Yeah.
moment. And we build life in the present moment. Um, Another thing that comes to mind is to dismantle this belief that we all start in, that we are the parent, we are the all-knowing, we are the adult. So we have to show the child how to live, and we have to figure out the
Mhm.
child's life for them. And we have to, that's a traditional way of looking at parenting, and we were all raised in that. And the element
Yeah.
that's missing in that formula is respect for the sovereignty of the child. And how can we recognize the sovereignty in our children if we don't recognize it in us?
Yeah.
Right. So I love Lisa Nichols when she talks about raising her son. She always told him, even in his teen years, she would have this say every beginning of the new school year. Now, remember, mommy doesn't know you as a sixth grader. So let's be patient. Let's work together. I want to get to know you and who you're going to be this year. And we're going to work as a team. And she would set that starting point for the relationship with her kid. And then on and on and on. And so it created an openness, right? And it dismantled
Yeah.
that, like, I'm the parent, I know it all, you better do what I say. And then it left room for him to come to the table and say, hey, I don't want to play sports, or I don't want to do this, or can we figure out together what I want to do? I don't know what I want to do. Can you help me figure this out? And then that's when we relate in sovereignty of like, yes, I'm still the adult and I have more experience than you, and my brain is fully formed. And those are all abilities that are mature and more helpful, but I still respect who you are. And I want to know from you in your own words and at your own level where you're at, whether you're 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, right? I still care for you. As a parent, I'm invested in you. I want to know you. But this takes time and energy, and we have to make room for these conversations. We have to make room to show our children that we care. We actually put time. We don't just snap and direct and then go away. We have to sit presently with them and invest the time to understand who they are. And the best thing that happens from showing our children that we ourselves are growing up, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to try to figure out who you are. It's a model for them later on, because they learn from how they see us. They don't learn almost anything from what we tell them, right? They see our actions. And if our actions match our intention, then great, we've done our homework right. But if our actions are different than our intention and what we promise them or what we tell them, then that's what they see. And they will learn that with themselves. They will learn that their intention and their actions are going to be can be different for themselves. So we don't just do our children a service when we grow ourselves up, when we reparent ourselves. We do the relationship a service. We do our own heart and soul a service of reconnecting and aligning, right? This whole idea of healing to me is integration of all these different parts, and we come together as much as possible to function wholly.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is like you can use the garden analogy, right? Where if you look in the garden, where both the soil and the plants both need attention in order to have a thriving environment for the plants to grow. So if you look at it as the soil represents the parent and the plants are the children. So if the soil itself is neglected, it would affect the health and the growth of the plants, right? So if you don't tend to yourself first, how are you able to create a nurturing
Yeah.
environment in order for these kids to thrive? So I think as parents, it's important um, to realize that when we're nurturing ourselves and working on ensuring our growth, we are creating a healthier environment for your child to thrive in, right? Like, and you see that because once you create that environment, they are able to express themselves, they are able to grow into who it is they truly have come here to be. And
it makes life that much easier on both ends. This is not about perfect parenting or a perfect world or a perfect child or a perfect parent, not at all. It's about blossoming, like to go
yeah,
on your analogy of the garden, right? It's about blossoming and growing into who you are so that you don't stumble and get blocked as you live your life. So you have courage and you have resiliency and you have an ability to like do something with yourself when you're in hardship and when you're struggling. And all these things our children can learn from us just by seeing us trying to parent differently. They learn what it takes. They see what it takes. Resiliency means to stay in the storm. So if we don't stay in the storm because we react and we decide quickly what's what, then that's what they'll learn. And so to me, this is the most important aspect to understand in conscious parenting and in my own work with myself, that my kid sees it, he absorbs it from the sidelines. And someday all of this will make a certain kind of sense in himself as an adult. Yeah.
So I think it's important then to remember that parenting is not about raising, it's not just about raising our children, but also about raising ourselves. And when we learn this, we understand that it's a mutual journey of growth and understanding and love. So we think we encourage each one of you who's listening to our video today to reflect on your personal growth and to ask yourself maybe how can you grow yourself up to be the best version for your children, for yourself first, and then so you can show up and be the best version for yourself and your children.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. Pick one thing and try to deconstruct it and understand it, and then put some intention into it, and promise to yourself that you will practice that throughout the week or the weeks to follow, and then be in awareness of what happens to you when you intentionally work on yourself. Okay, guys, that's it for today. We'll keep it nice and short, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.